Good day. Thank you very much for sharing. Well, I've probably made like a Moroccan pumpkin stew before, but I've never made, I guess you have to correct me, chai.
Chia.
I want to say chai, but chai is spelled with the letters the other way around.
Right.
Chia, so just like a chia pet.
Yes.
Is it?
Sorry to interrupt, Or, but as soon as you started recording, then I didn't have the capability.
Okay. It's like, so chia pudding, and now I've used chia before to like thicken stuff, but I don't think I've ever made a straight up pudding. So
Yeah.
So is that what we'll start working on first?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw the chia seeds and the whatever milk you want together first.
Now, what I have just the whole seeds. Do you have to crush them or?
Nope, they work whole.
And you just put it in a bowl?
So I'm using a pint mason jar, wide mouth pint mason jar for mine. But yeah, bowl's fine. Any vessel is fine.
All right, I got a jar.
Whatever you want to eat your pudding out of, that's what you want to put it in.
Okay. And I don't tend to keep fresh milk because I use so little milk. So I always have canned milk because,
yeah.
Well, let's see. I have canned, I have powdered, I have evaporated, I have condensed, but all right. So for this recipe, we've got milk, the chia seeds, and then what else? Just whatever flavor we want.
Well, you can use a sweetener. You might want a tablespoon of honey or maple syrup. I'm using maple syrup today.
Can I just put a fruit as a sweetener?
Absolutely. You don't have to put any sweetener in it. If you're planning on adding, especially if you're using coconut milk and some fruit with it, then it will likely be sweet enough and you don't need to. You could also not put the sweetener in at the beginning, and then if you want to add it when you go to eat
just basically make the basic pudding and then just add.
And then add flavorings. I have like a list of 6 ideas of things that you can add to this to make it different flavors, but really whatever you come up with or whatever.
Bananas.
Yeah, bananas are great.
I rarely buy bananas, but I had to go shopping for the chia seeds, and while I was there, I grabbed. All right, so the recipe says.
So we have 3 tablespoons of chia seeds and 3/4 of a cup of whatever milk you're using. I'm using coconut milk out of a can.
Oh, I got coconut milk too. I could have done that instead, huh? I'm still, I don't know. Even though I grew up mostly vegan, it wasn't really a choice as much as we didn't have refrigeration because I grew up off grid. And so let's see. Do I want to use evaporated? Let me use the coconut milk. Coconut milk is so much better.
Oh yeah, I really love the fattiness, the creaminess, I'm still stirring.
I see. I got a whole row of coconut milk and a whole row of. The only thing I don't like about the coconut milk is the cans all have these pop lids.
Oh.
This particular brand, and I'm afraid, if it sits for a long time, they'll pop open, but who knows? So far, that was my pandemic project, building that can rack, and so
I like that.
I've had the design in place forever, but finally I got around. So I don't have to crush these seeds at all.
No, you don't have to crush them at all. I'm measuring out my 3/4 of a cup of milk here.
Do I have to be that specific, or can I just dump the whole can in?
You could use a little less than a full can, or
Just add a little bit of chia. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm a
Yes,
lazy cook. I'm like, I don't want to make something else dirty here.
oh yeah.
Okay, so it's about actually 3/4 of a cup, so only about a half a can.
Yeah.
So
that sounds about
I'm gonna
right.
double it. Well, let's see if it'll fit in here. I might double up the recipe here. Yep. I just double it up, so because I've got a quart.
Sure, yeah, juice.
I don't have to. Once I open something, I just like to use the whole thing.
Sure.
All right. Chia. Oh. What is the advantage of chia? Is there something really good about it, or?
Well, yeah, so this is a great way to have a sweet treat if you are plant-based. And chia seeds are very good for the digestive system. That mucilage that they produce, that that sliminess about them is actually really, really good for the digestive system.
So growing up, my mom always put either chia or flax seeds in oatmeal.
Yeah.
It was just a very common. So, all right. So that's all mixed up.
She was looking out for your digestion.
Yep. Do we have to add water to it, or it's just basically straight up milk?
That's it. That's it. And if you're not adding any,
That's too easy. Now, yeah, I mean, I regularly make what I call refrigerator oatmeal, where I just basically mix a milk of choice, half and half with water. After I fill the jar with oats, and then I mix a milk of choice with water and just put it in the fridge. And then when I eat it, I add fruits and sweetener. And so basically making a pudding. I actually don't like pudding, so I'll tell you how this comes out. I
yeah,
like this pudding from Europe. It's called whippy, which is actually potato based. So it's like a sweet mashed potato, which sounds really horrible, but it's a different texture. And I like that, but I don't like most puddings. So
okay. Do you
So I could-
I wanted to ask you, when you do your oatmeal in that jar
Yep.
with the milk and so on, and put it in the refrigerator, what type of oatmeal do you use?
I don't know, just rolled, like the whole rolled oats. Like I
Okay.
find if you use like the quick oats, it gets really mushy.
Mhm.
But like if I just, here, I'll get a little bit here.
Is it like the old fashioned rolled oats?
Yeah, it just, I don't know if you can see that. It's just flat rolled oats. So it, what do you call it? And I actually ate some for breakfast this morning. I had a container with the last of the yogurt. And then it had like about this much yogurt in it. And so last night I filled it up with oats and milk, and I like putting cinnamon in it. So I'm gonna should I throw the banana in now, or, oh, it's already thickening.
No, you
Oh.
don't have to throw it in now. Yeah, the pudding.
Oh, it's just like I'm trying to wobble it and it's already like thickening. It's like quick.
Oh yeah, it's fast. Yeah.
So I don't even have to
technically-
put it in the fridge or anything.
Nope. It would really be done in 15, 20 minutes. I do often like to do this overnight though, just it sets up more the longer it sits, and then it's nice and cool sitting in the fridge overnight. Yeah, I'm shaking mine up, and we're just gonna set that aside. And I guess we can get to work on our main dish, our Moroccan squash stew. I'm just gonna
Alright.
I'm gonna move my setup.
Can one of my back end helpers cut and paste the recipe in the chat? I don't know. For the people following along. So I, of course, did the American thing and I got canned pumpkin. But when I went to the store, they had these really nice local, they called them acorn pumpkins.
Acorn, yeah.
And they were like half the price of any other pumpkin there. So I got them also.
Yeah.
And then of course, some, you know, nice fresh ginger. And at the farmer's market, they had a lot of good sweet potatoes. And then of course, I've got my veggie broth that I make and can, a gallon of it at a time. And I thought I had fresh beans that I would cook in the pressure cooker, but I don't, but I do have some canned garbanzo beans. And of course, good old canned tomatoes. And then of course, all the different spices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now
I'm actually using a butternut today.
my coconut oil, it must be below 78 degrees in my house because I actually got this when I was visiting the Caribbean. This is an old rum bottle, but I can't get to it. So I'll have to use a different kind of oil for this recipe. But I do know I've made this recipe before, and coconut oil does enhance it. Oh, and raisins, or I like to put dates in mine.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
minced
these-
dates, or they have but I think the first thing I have to do is, because I do have these fresh, is cut that all up too, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm
you-
gonna start
Oh, you're
with
just
my-
using a peeler. I've never thought of doing that.
I'm gonna start with my butternut squash and just get that peeled, and then I'll go ahead and chop it up. Just get that out of the way.
Yeah, that peeler is not going to work for this one.
No.
No. But
I'm not on an acorn.
that's a good idea. I'll have to remember that, because butternut squash really has a hard crust.
So, or the acorn squash is not ideal for recipes where it needs to be peeled because
Okay,
the
it's pretty hard.
grooves make it very time consuming.
Yeah.
It's much better to stuff whole or cut in slices and roast, and either eat the peel or not eat the peel once it's on your plate.
I think I'll do is quarter it and toss it in the pressure cooker for 10 minutes. Yeah. Now, one thing we always did is, if you do have seeds, pumpkin seeds, is save them and roast them. That's always good.
Hey, does anyone else eat the peels of butternut squash, or am I the only one who eats the peel?
Nope, I eat them too.
I eat
Oh,
them.
yeah?
I do. If I am roasting a whole squash, I do. But in a stew like this, what's gonna happen is when we dice it up, the chunks, the skin's gonna peel away, and then you're just gonna have skins floating around in your stew, which is fine if you like it. I'm just a preference. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I forget. I want to say these were like 50 cents a piece. Because I mean, they
Wow.
sold them by the pound, but that's part of it, is, you know, try to get what's in season, right? which people in California, everything's in season almost all the time, right?
My
Right.
butternut has no seeds.
Wow.
So you can. All right. And then what do you think the difference is between using, I mean, canned pumpkin almost always is like a puree. You don't get any texture.
Yeah, yeah, and this recipe in particular is like cubed squash, and I feel like that it does bring a lot texture wise to the dish.
All right.
And does that mean that you're not going to puree the butternut squash?
I won't be pureeing. Nope.
So I'm just going to toss this in the pressure cooker for 10 minutes and see how well that works out. I had actually got this pressure cooker ready for my garbanzo beans, and then I was like, hey, I have no garbanzo beans.
So how many butternut squash are you making? 2 or 3 or 2?
I just
One.
said one.
It might not even take
Oh.
10 minutes or
Oh, okay.
in the pressure cooker, probably
You
less
cut it
than
in
that.
half.
I cut it in half. Now I'm cutting it into strips so that I can dice it. Or chunk. I mean, it's not gonna be super fine or anything, big chunks.
All right. And then so we're going for big chunks for everything, right? The onions, the ginger, the garlic, the sweet potatoes.
Yep, and I always like to crush my garlic first so it can sit and release its medicinal, beneficial ingredients.
One thing I did learn last month was if you make a stew and you are doing a whole clove of garlic, don't even bother peeling it. Just put it in there and let it cook. And then once it's cooked, you can take, a lot of times the skin actually dissolves off of it when you're boiling it. That was just something I learned recently.
But you'd think that you'd have this like kind of a weird kind of residue in your soup with the garlic skins.
And especially if you are like frying. But yeah, I mean, like here's the bits, like I saved that, and that's my broth. My broth was onion bits and carrots. Oh, I forgot to get carrots out. And this is a slightly sweet recipe, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, all of our veggies are sweet, so. Yeah, and then we're gonna add in those spices to kind of balance it out.
I know there was one thing I forgot. Carrots. But yeah, I mean, like if you're cutting off any bits of the vegetables, like I just save those, and that's where I make my veggie broth.
Over here.
Or, you know, the same thing. Meat. So I basically have 3 1-gallon bags in my freezer. One of it's chicken bits, one of it's veggie bits, and then one of it's red meat. And so I can make 3 different broths. So
And then do you use the plastic baggies and then label it?
Yeah, I just have 1 gallon bags in my freezer that's labeled, but you can also just see through the clear plastic. Are we frying the onion? Do I have to keep
Yeah.
that separate?
Yes, according to recipe, I'm gonna go ahead and crush my garlic now. I'll chop my onion and I'm gonna saute that onion. And then grate in my ginger and garlic
All right, so,
and using my,
and one thing when I'm cooking a lot, I tend to just like cut things right into the pan in order of what takes longer to cook if you're frying it. That's, but, all right.
you do
Oil,
you do it your way.
Well, you know, in a lot of recipes, you fry the spices first, then you add the onion and garlic and ginger and stuff. So are you doing it in that order?
No, actually, I'm gonna do the onion and then the garlic and ginger and then the spices. But they will all be sauteed before any liquid goes in
Mhm.
to.
Yeah, that's more typical of Indian cooking where you cook the spices a little bit.
All right. I remember growing up that we like the idea to put raisins in a savory stew or apples in a salad was just absolutely hilarious. But I like, I don't know, making a sweet savory.
Yeah, well, especially with this whole recipe here, that the raisins are definitely not necessary in the grand scheme, because it's already got a lot of sweetness without them. I'm gonna put a little coconut oil in with mine.
All
What are
right.
you putting in there?
I'm putting in coconut oil with my onion.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I was showing before. I can't do my coconut oil because it's below 78 degrees and it's solid.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got this when I was in the Caribbean.
I mean, you can run it under hot water
I have a
Yeah.
friend
if you need
who
to.
makes this, like the majority of coconut oil, they use it by getting the coconut and they heat the oil up. But there's only one person I know in the Caribbean, they do a cold press. So,
So what did you use? Olive oil?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have like 3 or 4 different other oils, but that was the easiest one to get to. Probably not that good because it's not that great for high heat, but. All right, so I've got my onions frying.
All right, I'm
And
gonna
then
go
you
ahead
said-
and grate my ginger.
Ginger first and then the garlic.
I already crushed my garlic.
Okay.
You know, I always have a hard time grating the ginger.
Where is it?
Do you guys have a hard time doing that?
It
What-
matters
what-
how old it is, I guess. I always mince it myself.
What I do is if you go to an Indian grocery, you can get garlic ginger paste that's all nice and smooth. I think a lot of
Oh,
Indian cooks do that. And then you just, because quite often the ginger and garlic are both in the same dish. And that makes it so much easier. You just take a couple scoops and throw
How
them
much should I put
There
in?
it is, right there. Yeah. Or it's got
I
it
mean,
right there.
this whole thing was $5 and it's, I don't know, it's 750 grams of garlic ginger paste. And so
Oh,
now
about
that does have a little bit of vinegar in it.
a tablespoon, I'd say. If I
So
was,
if you're frying with it, this isn't great for frying because it's very wet and is some vinegar, not as good. But
well,
You're
I,
sauteing, whatever liquid will go away right away when you're sauteing.
now I personally really like garlic, so I tend to just not mince the garlic and do big chunks.
well,
So I like chunkify stuff. Thanks for the reminder, Fred, of this ginger garlic paste. I always forget because I have it fresh, so I tend to not use this very much.
You know, sometimes you get little bits of fiber from ginger unless you really grate it really thin.
Those I guess it matters how fresh your ginger is, how easy it is to, but
hey, or on this new way that we're doing this, I'm not able to see who's here with us.
oh yeah,
But they still have the option to ask questions and stuff, right?
Yeah,
correct.
there's
Yeah.
11 participants, currently 11 participants.
And how many countries?
Yeah, last time.
And
we
then they
did-
also, some people don't want to be on recording, so they'll put it in chat and then Fred will ask the question.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's fine too. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if I'm going too
For
fast.
me,
or-
again, I really like, so I don't grate it. I really like chunks.
Yeah,
I'm I
A
like
chunky
big,
person.
big bold flavor.
okay.
All right, let's see. So I'm gonna cut up my carrots and my sweet potatoes. Ready for that. And that pudding is almost can't wiggle it. Almost no liquid already. That's amazing.
Yeah, it sets up pretty fast.
All right. Sweet potatoes and carrots cut up.
Yep, I'm adding the garlic and the ginger.
I guess I should start collecting the spices that's gonna go in this.
Yeah, our spices are gonna go in before we put our liquids in.
So we've got cinnamon stick, red pepper flakes, cumin, coriander. Now, do you know, does it matter if that's whole? Or I tend to, with cumin especially, where did it go? I like the cumin seeds, doing them whole. But the coriander,
Sounds great. So on the recipe, I just want to let everybody know. So we're doing 1 onion, 4 cloves of garlic, a 1-inch knob of ginger, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons coriander, and you can do either a cinnamon stick or a teaspoon of cinnamon, and just the red pepper flakes, however you typically like your spice to be.
I tend to keep, I tend to really like the spices in a whole, and then they last a lot longer.
Yeah,
Now, I definitely didn't follow the 1-inch ginger.
You got a little more than an inch, that's fine, I think I did too.
No, I just,
And
a lot.
I don't usually measure, but I'm on a cooking show, so I'm measuring, okay?
it's fine. All right, so I'm gonna grind up a little coriander seeds in the spice grinder. All right, that garlic and onions is pretty crunchy.
Mine's ready as well. Of course, I'm a little behind on my chopping. I've still got carrots and sweet potatoes to do here.
All right. Here we go. I turned it down a little bit so we can wait. And then I think I've got all the spices ready. Let's see. Carrots diced, sweet potato diced, cumin, coriander, and cinnamon. And then, all right. I might have to add a little more oil to this. Let's see here. And it just says a pinch of red pepper.
Mhm.
Give it a little spice. Or if you want a lot of spice, I had someone give me this measuring thing. This one's a smidge. This one's a pinch. This one's a dash. And this one's a tad.
All of that.
And they're just ones, I mean, I've never used it. I just like, but it was funny to get. So if there
Yeah.
ever is a recipe, but yeah, I mean, it's just like
I sure would.
basically the size, it's from like a smidge is the smallest, then a pinch, and then a dash, and then a tad is slightly bigger. So, but if you really like it spicy, put a little cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're frying that spices in there. The sweet potatoes, do we actually have to fry them? So should I add more oil to it, or is it just going to be cooked in the broth?
I think just cooking it in the broth will soften them up just fine. Let me.
But I do like the method where you like get the spices integrated into the oil, and then that really spreads it on everything.
Yeah. I had a giant carrot, so I think I'm just gonna do one carrot instead of the two.
Don't be nervous, Lindsay, but this is the first time I'm ahead of the chef. As in like 30 seconds. I just put the sweet potatoes and carrots in.
All right. Yeah, so
I should start getting these cans ready to open.
yeah, then you'll do the the broth, which is 3 cups of broth, either 2 cans of garbanzo beans or 3 cups if you've already made your own, and 1 of the big cans of tomatoes, 28 ounces of diced or crushed or whole. It's really just preference here. Any will work.
Oh man, this is starting to smell real.
Yep, mine's smelling good. And that stove is sure hot.
Now that I just put everything together and well, I still have, I guess I'm behind you because you've got your butternut squash chopped up and I don't.
Got my squashes
So.
all chopped up. All right.
So are those salted garbanzo beans that you put in there?
Does it have salt in it? Let me check actually,
They usually do have salt, but you can put them in a strainer and rinse them if you're trying to cut back on salt.
thank you for the reminder. I actually need to not. So that one I drained. And then,
Changed my
Most of the
mind.
salt is in the juice.
let me get my squash out of the pressure cooker and chop that up. All right. I'm almost keeping it all clean.
Or it doesn't look to me like your pan is big enough.
That's always, I always cook more than my pan. But part of the mistake was I didn't pour off the juice of that one can of beans. I have a problem not wanting to throw away liquid. Oh, and I forgot to put my cinnamon stick in there.
Does anyone know about aquafaba? You can take the juice that's left over from the beans and you can use it. You whip it up with the, I don't know what it's called, but like those mixers, and it makes this like foamy vegan mousse mixture.
Well, my problem is the juice. I don't want to waste the juice, but the juice is always way too salty. Like I don't really like salt. So it's like, all right.
All right, so I have no idea if everybody's keeping up or what, but I have all of the diced vegetables in the pot, including a can of diced tomatoes and my 2 cans of beans, garbanzo beans I'm using, but you could use a different bean. And then 3 cups of broth. And now I'm just making sure all of those spices get incorporated. And you can add your raisins at this point if you want them to be all soft and plump and rehydrated to a certain degree. If you like that, you could add the raisins in now. Or you can use them as a garnish when you serve it. So I'm actually gonna put my lid on. On my Dutch oven and let it go. This needs to cook for probably about 30 minutes to soften up the pumpkin and sweet potato, carrots.
So there's my squash, or like
Is it
I-
still pretty firm, your flesh?
yeah, it is,
Awesome.
but it's too hot to really peel the skin easily. But
Oh, no.
yep. So well, I can just let it cool because it's pretty well
Already
cooked.
Yeah,
I could just add it to this.
yes.
Right now, the only thing I have to cook in there is the sweet potatoes and carrots. Just let it slow, you know.
Do you have room for broth or did you already add broth?
I added the broth, yeah. But I overdid it because I added the broth and I added 1 can of bean juice. So it's actually got almost a cup of liquid too much.
Well, I'll tell you, mine actually,
And you could simmer it uncovered to reduce some of the liquid if you wanted to.
So that's pretty much it, right?
that is pretty much it. What I'm gonna do, I'll simmer for about 30 minutes and check to make sure that everything's tender. And then I'm just gonna add a handful or 2 of spinach. I've got spinach and arugula at the very end. And then if you want any seeds, cilantro, raisins, nuts, you can just toss those in as a garnish at the very end.
Or like me, like I don't like my raisins super mushy, so I tend to add them, I don't know, 5, well, it matters how dry. If I have super dry raisins, I might add them now.
Yeah.
But most of the raisins I end up buying are super moist.
Mhm.
And so then I just add them, I don't know, 5 minutes before it's done.
Yeah.
That's
So
So-
what's the traditional Moroccan recipe? I mean, did you add something different than the traditional?
oh, this is
I
just
haven't.
inspired by,
Okay.
right? I mean, I'd say I've made this like Moroccan style. I'd say the main thing is when I did it Moroccan style, fried all the spices in the oil first, and then fried the onions and garlic.
I just always worry
But
that.
then
the
you
chicken
end up with a
will
lot
burn.
more oil. Like I always found out doing that, you ended up with a lot more oil. Because like if you put the spices in the oil, the oil absorbs all the spices, half of it disappears.
Yeah.
And then you have to add more oil to then fry the onions and garlic. Or you fry the onions and garlic separately. This makes it so it's one pot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I do find that a lot of cuisine from that area does have more oil. And maybe that's why, because they're frying their spices first.
well, I mean, what is more expensive, spices or oil? And you can use a lot less spices if it gets incorporated into the oil.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, if you fry the onions and garlic separately, you could use less oil that way too. But then you'd have another pot. So,
Yeah.
all right. So this,
Well, I'm thinking that, in Morocco, they would eat that with either couscous or maybe French bread or flatbread. What do you think?
and then if they're eating it with that, more oil is better. And then, I mean, if you're eating a lot of plant-based, you need more oil. So, all right. Anybody have any final questions? And we've got Lindsey scheduled to come back and teach us how to make cheeses out of nuts. So we're gonna make a
Make
hard
what?
cheese and a hard cheese and a liquid cheese out of nuts.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
plant-based cheese.
Mm.
Yeah, and I just realized I haven't got you the ingredients list for that.
Well, apparently, I'm sure it's a lot of nuts.
Yeah. yeah.
So,
I'm trying to, in fact, I mean, if you want to talk about that, I was gonna do cashews for the cheese sauce.
well,
And then-
cashews are good because, you know, they're actually not a nut, so people aren't allergic to it.
Yeah.
They're a
And
fruit.
then,
right?
oh,
So-
thank you. Mm-hmm.
So with this recipe, does anybody have any final questions here? Of course, we can stick around afterwards and chat a little bit, but thank you, Lindsay. Yeah.
Or just tell me when you are like finished
Yep.
or something. I go
Lindsay,
back into
Lindsay,
the room.
do you serve this with rice, bread, couscous, or is it just eat it like it is?
I like to eat it like it is, just maybe because it's easiest, but of course.
And more, you know, as a liquid soup, or do you allow it to cook to, you know, get rid of the liquid, more of a stew?
More of a stew.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it starts off with a lot of liquid anyway. Like,
Well, I mean, in my case, I put a cup extra, so that's why I'm asking.
yeah, but I was thinking that's not gonna hurt it at all, because I feel like mine, it wouldn't, like, another cup of liquid wouldn't hurt it at all.
All right.
And it'll still be really thick in the end. Yeah.
So,
I'm just wondering if you could probably do this in the Instant Pot also, which is basically a pressure cooker.
Yeah, yeah,
probably could.
yeah.
Yeah, because there's
So-
nothing in, I can't see anything in there that, any reason you couldn't pressure cook it.
Jane,
No.
can I spotlight you so we can see yours? Can you
Sure,
sh-
yeah,
Can you show us your pot there?
yeah, it's
See?
mine. I didn't have a butternut though. This is without butternut.
Oh, so that's everything but the butternut.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Oh,
we have a butternut.
I didn't have a butternut either, so mine's acorn squash, but I haven't put it in yet. So,
Okay.
And if you put your phone sideways, we can see the pot better, I think.
Yeah, turn your phone sideways.
just
I
like,
There
need
you
to-
go. Oops.
No, I need to turn it. It was locked. It was locked. Okay. There we go.
There you go.
and I think you could probably put
Mm.
some regular potatoes in it if you need to thicken it.
Okay.
Like, you know, the squash is partially used to thicken it too, I think. So,
Looks
Yeah,
nice.
you could throw some rice in there even if you don't, you know, if you wanted to, I suppose.
all right.
That's true.
Any final questions? I'm going to wrap up the recording and good deal. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.